I am now going to take you through 8 rules that will get you started on contributing to the implications wheel process. These rules are for both you and your team, so it is important that you understand them so you can help one another. The trigger for your discussion is the center topic. You start by reading the center topic and its details to understand what you're going to explore. Once you understand the center topic, you and your team will fill out one arc of the wheel, which looks like this. Now, here's the key. You need to know how to write good implications in order to make useful contributions to this process. To generate useful implications, there are 8 rules that you need to follow. Rule 1. Let's begin with the trigger question. You are starting with the first-order implication that has already been generated. So, start by assuming the first-order implication happened, and then ask yourself, what might happen as a direct result of this implication? Please notice the word might. That gives you wide latitude in your explorations. It also means that even if it is only a 1 in a million possibility, it is still possible, so it is a legitimate implication. One more thing. If you don't understand the implication offered, or you don't see how it fits, you have a right to ask for an explanation. Here's a way to phrase your question. Can you please say a little bit more about your implication? I don't see how it fits here. Or, I don't see how it's connected to the last implication. The key is, please. That word sets the proper tone. You are not confronting, you are getting clarification. Rule 2. Fill out all your second-order implications before you go to your third orders. Sometimes you will catch yourself or a team member offering up a third-order implication when you are still in the second-order ring. They are not wrong, they are early. Have them set it aside until you have finished the second orders. Rule 3. When you offer your implication to your small group, always start with the phrase, one possibility is. You don't have to write it down, but you should speak it. It is a way of reminding us that we are exploring possibilities, not certainties. Rule 4. Repetition and contradictions are okay. The same specific implication can show up multiple times because it can be triggered from more than one source. The result is repetition. It is important to identify an implication that keeps coming up from different directions. And contradictions are clearly possible because we are dealing with possibilities. One may be less likely than the other, but both are possible. Rule 5. The weird and the obvious are okay. Just as long as they're possibilities, they are acceptable. The reason for this rule is important. A weird implication may trigger in someone else's mind the most important implication of the entire arc. If the weird implication has been suppressed, the important one never would have surfaced. The same goes for obvious implications. Rule 6. In the sets of 5 implications, you need to have at least one positive implication and one negative implication. This keeps us from being too lopsided one way or the other. If you have trouble coming up with a negative, try to imagine what your harshest critic would say. For the positive side, ask yourself who would see this in a positive light and express their position in a specific implication. Rule 7. This is the most important rule. When you offer an implication, you need to be as specific and concrete as you can. Avoid verbs like affects, impacts, changes, alters, because they lack specificity. What kind of impact? What kind of alteration? Specific answers trigger specific implications. Generalities trigger more generalities. A good rule is to include enough details so that 6 months later, someone who is not part of your team can read through your arc and understand your implications. Now, because Rule 7 is so important, I'm going to give you an extensive set of example implications that are not good enough, and then show you the same implications with enough specificity to make them useful. Here we go. Not land use changes, but land use for distribution center rather than manufacturing. Not longer need for custom inspectors, but there is a need for custom inspectors to be available 24/7. Not individuals feel lost, but individuals lose association with specific programs. Not improved engineering solutions, but improved cost control and engineering solutions because of infusion of operational experience. Please notice the "because" phrase. It clarifies why those improvements are happening. Not fear of employee lawsuits, but fear of employee lawsuits based on sexual harassment incidents. Not increased battery life, but battery life extended from 5 to 7 hours talk time. Not surrounding communities get upset at new usage, but surrounding communities using the most highly impacted highways and train routes become angry at the increased traffic. Not surrounding communities don't like the noise, but because of noise, city councils in surrounding communities do not allow truck traffic on their streets during second and third shifts. Learning to be specific comes with practice and group help. Don't be afraid to ask your team members to improve upon their implications by asking them to be more specific. One more caution. Sometimes contributors like to combine several implications into one. It seems like it's efficient, but don't do it. It makes it much harder to generate implications from that implication in the next order. And now the last rule. Rule number 8. Limit your discussion. You have one task: to generate specific possible implications according to the implications wheel process. As soon as the group agrees an implication is possible and specific, enter it and immediately move on to the next. This rule is most important for adults who too often start talking about something tangential or adding information that doesn't improve the implication. The I-wheel process can be very fast if you don't get off topic. As a team member, you have the right and an obligation to stop someone who is not working the wheel. Just say, "I think it's time for another implication." Now it is time to fill out your ARC. Remember these steps. Review the center topic and the details. Fill out the 5 second orders before you go to the third orders. Make sure you have at least one positive and one negative implication for each set of 5. Be specific with your implications and limit your discussion. This video now continues with how to use the software to contribute your implications.